Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Unshackle Your Voice. We're so glad you're here, whether you're live with us tonight or if you're watching the replay. Thanks for being here. We're honored to have you join us. And tonight's topic in our episode is Unshackle Your Voice so you can be seen and heard. And we're going to talk about the importance of adding value. One of the values, what we're talking about. What is value? How do you add value to yourself and to others? We're Mary Denise and Candace Mae, and we're your guides for reframing your life, digging the gold from your past struggles, and designing the life of your dreams. Welcome to Unshackle Your Voice so you can be seen and heard with confidence. I'm Candace Mae. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Technical difficulties.
No problem. I'm Candace Mae, owner of Candace Mae Training and Services, offering consulting, training, performance coaching, and operational analysis for changing times. If you're a business owner, executive, or professional who feels frustrated or overwhelmed with your team dynamics and workflow, your team will benefit from our holistic coaching and consulting services. We assist teams to build trust, psychological safety in the workplace so you can increase morale, employee engagement, and improve product quality and sales.
You are awesome. You do so much, Candace Mae. Hey, all of you people out in Facebook land, Twitter land, YouTube land, all the social media lands that you're seeing this on. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Mary Denise. I'm the one and only Mary Denise in this whole planet, and I am the founder of Mitchell Leadership Services and Consulting. And what I do is I help you become the leader of your own life. I help you gain that unshakable confidence, get that courage, create healthy boundaries, raise your self-esteem, and help you be clear and concise in your communications. The one thing, there's several things actually that bring Candace Mae and I together. And that is our shared interest as certified speakers, trainers, and coaches under the John Maxwell team. We're actually executive directors, which is a really cool thing. We also are part of the Empowered Living community, and we serve as life guides for that. And the best part of our jobs is we're both DISC certified human analysts, and that is the best thing ever. So let me lay the groundwork for what you can expect from the show tonight. We're going to spend about 30 to 40 minutes. Sometimes we go to 42, so you know it's okay. Just letting you know. And we're gonna give you everything that we have. We will give you the very best that we have to give you so that you can implement ideas that not only add value to yourself, but they also help you add value to other people. Now, if you want to go into a deeper conversation, because Candace Mae and I could talk about this subject for days if you let us, message us privately and we'll be more than happy to connect with you. Take it away.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear from any of you and carry on a conversation or connect. So, I know Mary Denise would too. So tonight we're talking about adding value and valuing people, and that includes valuing ourselves. Zig Ziglar often said it's impossible to consistently behave in a manner inconsistent with how we see ourselves. We can do very few things in a positive way if we feel negative about ourselves. Before we can add value to others or even value ourselves, we must first value ourselves before we can value other people. And how we see ourselves and the worth that we put on ourselves is often referred to as self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who Nathaniel Branden is?
He's a psychotherapist and expert that I kind of studied for a little bit on the subject of self-esteem. He says that there is nothing more important in a person's psychological development and motivation than the value judgments they make about themselves. He further says that every aspect of our life is impacted by the way we see ourselves. And we need to understand that the value we place on ourselves usually determines the value other people put on us.
Exactly. You know why that is, right? I mean, if you don't have any boundaries, nobody's going to create the boundaries for you. If you're going to let people push you around and do sport, they're just going to do it. So it's important that we have that strong value of ourselves.
Absolutely. You know, one of my favorite stories of all time, and I've heard it a couple of times, and whenever I start feeling a little bit off, I think about this story because it's about a man who went to a fortune teller to hear what she had to say about his future. So she looked into her crystal ball and said, "You will be poor and unhappy until you are 45 years old." And the man just looked at her and said, "Then what happens?" And she says, "You'll get used to it."
That's so sad. It's
Mhm.
really sad that most people live their lives with a poor image of themselves, and they think they have to live with that, right? They just get comfortable with it even, and they expect nothing more.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. So, you know, I oftentimes wonder what causes a person to have that poor image of themselves. And so I would, I want to know how come people aren't surrounding themselves around positive people? Like, what keeps you from being surrounded by positive people? If someone in our audience watching could let us know or share additional thoughts on why you want to be surrounded by positive people or why you're not surrounded by positive people, could you please share that with us?
Exactly. Because, I think when we're little, we get used to whatever we're around. If you come from a very positive family and upbeat, then you're going to have a really positive self esteem. And that's awesome. Kudos to you. And kudos to all the people that you probably surround yourself with, because you probably have strong boundaries and you probably are making sure that you're surrounded by positive people. And that is absolutely what we're encouraging you to do. But if you've grown up in a family that wasn't very positive, and maybe they even thought they were positive people, but they had this underlying currency of negativity constantly flowing from them, whether they realized it or not. Check out your friends and your family and those people closest to you that you hang around with at lunch, at work, or what have you. What are they seeping out into their life? Because whatever is in their heart is going to be revealed, and that's what is really seeding the character, right?
Yep.
And so I guess that kind of leads us into just the fact that we have to be able to surround ourselves with people who believe in us,
Mhm.
and we can live on their belief if in us, if we don't have our own belief. So if you're
Mhm.
lacking in self-esteem, surround yourself with people who do believe in you, and then
Mhm.
stand in their belief that she really believes I can do it. He really believes I can do this. Therefore, I can do this. And then next thing you know, as you start to get some wins under you, you'll start believing in yourself. You'll build your own self-confidence. And as you are surrounded by those positive people, um, it builds, it rubs off on you. It's contagious, just like negativity is contagious. And
Mhm.
don't become too concerned about what other people think of you if they're negative people. If they're positive people, yeah, stay in that, live in that. But if they're negative people, this is where we keep saying push those toxic people out of your life. Because
Mhm.
if you believe you can do it, you can do it. And if you believe you can't
Mhm.
do it, you're right. You can't
Mhm.
do it because it's all about you and your mental state. Wouldn't you say, Mary Denise?
Oh, absolutely. It kind of, when you said that a few minutes ago, it brought to memory my adoptive mother. She used to tell me, birds of a feather flock together. So be careful who you decide to hang out with. And, as a child, you hear that, you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, whatever, whatever. But as you get older, you come to appreciate that, right? Because it is about who you hang out with and who you let into your life, who you let speak any kind of life into your being. When you don't, when you surround yourself with people that are not positive, when you surround yourself around people that they just don't inspire to do anything else. They're perfectly content sitting on the couch day in and day out watching Netflix and drinking their beverage of choice, right? And that after a while it builds and your self-esteem gets wrecked.
Yeah.
So and I know all too well about having self-esteem images, self-esteem issues. I've had it my whole life. So one of the things that we're going to try to do tonight is we're going to give you some ways that you can build that self-esteem, because when you can build your self-esteem, you can go so far in life. And this lesson is playing off of the previous lessons that we have done, and you're going to hear some of the same things that we talked about before, just worded a little bit differently, because that's how important it is. So the first way that you can build your self-esteem is to guard your self-talk. I'm always talking about that. Be careful what you say. And if I had a nickel for every negative thing or thought that I ever had about myself, I'd be a billionaire right now. Literally.
I'm sorry.
I would literally be a billionaire right now. Our words and our thoughts, they matter. What you say, what you think, and what you believe about yourself is actually seen by others. And what you think you project is not what the others see.
That's so true.
You see the insecurities.
So, I told you I got certified as Art of Feminine Presence instructor. And one of the exercises we talk about is projection and go through some exercises to demonstrate what you think you're projecting out there is not what people are really seeing. It's such a powerful process. I just love that work, the Art of Feminine Presence. And I'll be doing more of that because it's all about working through your shadows and that, which are your negative self-talk, those things that pop up in your head and how to get rid of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of the default thinking comes from what? What do you think all of that negative self-talk comes from?
It comes, for me, it came from my upbringing. Plain and simple. Mine came from my upbringing. But that's a story for another day. But anyway.
Well, it's true. I mean, all kids get programmed something. We come into the world, we're blank slates, we absorb all the things going on around us. And so that becomes the programs that are running through our mind. And, I love this analogy. I was talking with another colleague in a program, and we were doing some exercises together, and it was about learning to be in the present moment rather than the past or the future, because your mind always races. And to be able to get to the point where you're so strongly rooted in the present moment and that connected with God in the present moment that you can actually see the thoughts, going by, and they're not you. You're not your thoughts. I know that's shocking to some of you, but you're not your thoughts. It's like a program in a computer. And it's amazing. We can tap into God and all the ideas drop in from God, but learning how to connect into yourself so that you can get that direct feedback in connection with God is a powerful process. A lot of people talk about mindset. It's all about mindset. But I think it's more than mindset. I think it really has to do a lot with that presence work that we learn to spend time being in the moment. Yeah, powerful.
Absolutely. Well, think about it. By the time a child is 17, they've heard, no, you can't, at least 150,000 times.
That's crazy.
But they only hear, yes, you can, about 5,000 times.
So sad. So terribly sad.
Yeah. So this averages out to about 30 no's for every one yes. But then when you grow up, guess what? You still get to hear, no, you can't. At the end of your brain. And it's
I can do anything I set my mind to. No.
It's in your brain, whether it's a professor, a boss, a pastor, or anyone that has some type of authoritative role over you telling you, no, you can't. And it just reconfirms all the prior no, you can't statements that you heard growing up. And so it's really important to reprogram the no, I can't lie, because it's a lie. You can do it. To yes, I can. It's to change how you see yourself. You are responsible for you. You are responsible for being your own cheerleader. You are responsible for being your own encourager, even when it looks like nothing is going to help. If you don't do something for yourself, nobody else can make you happy, then you're not going to be able to get past the self-esteem. You literally have to tell the bully between your ears to take a hike, and then you need to fill that space with positivity.
Absolutely. That's so true. That is so true. There is a bully in our mind oftentimes, those negative recordings. It takes time to pre-program that. And I believe that happens to everyone, regardless of their race or the religion or the status of their job or financial positioning in life, right? It's amazing. I think the second...
Hold on. We've got Bridget saying, I encourage myself. That is
Good for
amazing,
you.
Bridget. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're so happy that you're here.
Very happy, Bridget. Yes.
Yeah.
How do you go about encouraging yourself, Bridget? Is that a physical process that you do every day, that you spend time affirming yourself every day? Are you just saying, I can do this? I know I can do this. Yeah. It's a powerful process. So thanks for sharing that. And if you want to add more to it, we'll pull that up.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second step that we can share with you is stop comparing yourself to others. Don't we all seem to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no matter where we're at. I mean, it gets to a point where we can train ourselves not to compare ourselves, but again, it's a process. So those of you who've already worked through this personal level, you've been on a growth journey for a while, that you're my kind of people, just really out there doing your work and getting better, getting stronger in your awareness. And I love working with those who've been on a journey for a while. I like working with anyone, to be honest with you, but those who've been on a journey a while are really excited about growth. Those who are just starting are often really afraid. They're afraid to step out. They're afraid to look at themselves in the mirror, and they're always comparing themselves to someone else. And the problem with that is there's always going to be someone better than you, and there's always going to be someone worse than you. So if you want to compare yourself to someone better than you, then you're never going to measure up.
Yep.
You're always going to feel behind. And if you measure yourself to somebody that you're better than them at something, then you can become superior in your attitude, right? And you don't have to try even as hard anymore because you're already top of the class, right? So the concept is that we're always growing. Until we leave this earth, we're always growing. At least we want to always be growing. We're encouraging you to always be growing, right?
Absolutely. And it's something that every person, it doesn't matter how old you are, what your race, your religion, your economic status, sexual orientation, any of that, it doesn't matter, because everybody compares themselves to somebody else at some point in their life.
At some point, yes.
Even Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and all the other billionaires in the world, they have these moments where they're comparing themselves to somebody else. It's kind of that game of, the Joneses over there have this, and I need to get it now. And Smiths went and got it, and now I need to up them. Don't do that. It doesn't do good. Let's see. Bridget says,
I create my own happy. I have my little quotes I say to myself. I love that. Create my own happy.
Yep.
I know we keep saying stop comparing yourself, but as humans, what does it say?
As humans, at times we catch ourselves doing so. Why is it so? So why do we compare ourselves? Because we've been conditioned to do so. At least that's my philosophy. We've been conditioned to compare ourselves to other people because, look at what the media does, especially when I was in the 80s. Come on, I'm an 80s baby. Well, not a baby, but an 80s child. And that's all you did is compare yourself. You looked at what the models looked like, what it was just
everything's competitive, right? Sports are competitive. Everything's competitive. The girls look at the models and I should be airbrushed beautiful, right? But I should wake up that way. But you don't always wake up that way. We're taught in school who's got the A, who's the brightest child, who's they're always, why can't you be more like your sister? Why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't I be more like me? I just want to be me, right? So there are people, and I want to acknowledge that there are families who are really good at this, who are saying, Joey is Joey, and I appreciate everything about Joey, and Marianne is awesome about Marianne. And it's those families who are really good at that, who usually have stronger leaders that grow out of those families and get involved in the community and do the volunteer work, right? You see certain families have trends, right? I mean, look at the Bush family, right? Just for example, they were very positive and out there doing things. So I think that's where we come to. We come to comparing ourselves with others because simply that's what we were taught growing up, to be better, compare yourself to somebody else. We take our school statistical classes, and what do we say? You have to be at this grade level, and we compare. Everything's a comparison. So I think that's why we do it. I think it's just part of our society. But I think the strength comes in the fact when we can compare ourselves to ourselves. It is healthy to compare yourself to others at some extent, but not taken to an extreme. Because again, anything taken to an extreme becomes a weakness. So I'm not saying don't compare at all, because you need some competition, you need some bars, some standards to hold yourself to. But overall, once you've hit the standard bar, really measure yourself to yourself and get better more today than I was yesterday, right? You're on a growth journey.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Candace Mae, do you have a time that you can remember where you compared yourself to something and then thought, God, that was good?
What do you want to talk about? I mean, I grew up the youngest of 5. My dad was the youngest of 14. I'm a redhead, the youngest of 5, the third youngest girl. My siblings all have darker hair. My older brother has a blondish red hair, but really blonde next to me. My oldest sister, Deborah, she was like the beauty in the family. We were always told, with the higher cheekbones and the long black hair and, the eyelashes, always laying in the sun to get that beautiful tan, couldn't get dark enough. She just loved it. And then, then my brother would say to me, well, you're pretty for a redhead. Oh, for a redhead is qualified. You're pretty. You're pretty for a redhead. I said, what do you mean by a redhead? Well, redheads are usually washed out, freckles. They're, kind of homely. Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, bro. So I grew up comparing myself to my sister, at least physically, right? And then when my dad would say, on your birthday, how did anybody get so goddamn ugly on your, 13 years, that didn't help matters. So sure, I definitely had some self-esteem issues around what I looked like growing up, and comparing myself to others, and being teased. I'd rather be dead than have red on my head, right? Like, come on, when you're in elementary school, that's kind of hard to be the one that stands out. When I went to Europe in '79, it was amazing. There were tons of redheads everywhere, and I felt so at home just to be able to blend into a crowd. Those of you who have never stood out in a crowd may not appreciate that, but if you've ever felt like, the odd one out. What's Sandra Fry say?
She says, paying attention to your thoughts helps you overcome comparison. You have to first be aware, though, that you're doing it. Absolutely, Sandra Fry. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about awareness, isn't it? Because when we become aware of what we're doing, what we're thinking, what the body sensations are happening around us, then we become really attuned to what's going on. And when we're attuned with ourselves, then we become more attuned to what other people are doing around us as well.
Sandra says, redheads unite.
Woo, woo. All right. Love redheads. And here's what I was told when growing up in elementary. The older woman would call me aside and say, honey, I know it must be terrible to be picked on all the time, and you must really hate looking in the mirror and having that red hair. But let me tell you, when you grow up, everyone's going to envy you. All the women are going to dye their hair to be a redhead just like you. You look at this woman and say, thanks. Like, what is that, in 20 years? So for 20 years, I have to be the bottom of the barrel.
Well, and that leads us into our next segment, right? Because people tell us things and then we're like, what? Like, really? Is that really what I'm going to become? And so the third way that you can improve your self-esteem is to move beyond your stinking thinking. And basically what that is your limiting beliefs. When I was younger, there was a comic strip called Shoe by Jeff McNally. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I remember it. That just says how old I am. So there was a strip that I had cut out a long time ago, and I saved it for a very long time when I was contemplating that something in my life needed to change. And it basically went along the lines of Shoe is pitching in a baseball game in a conference. On the mound, his catcher says, "You've got to have faith in your curveball." And Shoe grumbles, that's easy for him to say. When it comes to believing in myself, I'm an agnostic. And an agnostic, just for purposes of our definition for tonight, it's someone who believes that there's no God exists. And unfortunately, the way she was thinking about it, saying that, he's an agnostic and he can't believe in himself, like he cannot believe in himself. And it's sad that a lot of people think this about themselves. I know I thought about it. I thought about it for myself for many years, especially when I went through a divorce. It was like, oh my gosh, like I'm 40 something when I got divorced. It's been a while. And I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to start over? Who's going to want me now? Like, right?
Yeah.
You think all these
It's hard starting over.
And you start to believe that you can't accomplish great things in life. But the greatest limitations people experience in their lives are usually the ones that they impose upon themselves. I don't know if anybody knows who Charles Schwab is. He was a great industrialist in the early days. And he said, when a man has put a limit on what he will do, he has put a limit on what he can do. Right?
Okay. Yeah. So in other words, if you believe you can do it, you can do it. And if you believe you can't do it, then you're right. You can't do it. Right? That's what you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you limit what you try, then you'll limit what you'll become and what you can stretch into, right?
Yep. And that's why it's so important for people to get out of that comfort zone and to stretch and not give up, right?
Right.
Don't give up. So.
Well, we all have a spark of God in us, and we're creators. Mm-hmm. So if we don't limit ourselves and we tap into God as or a higher power, whatever we deem that to be for us, I think we can be unlimited, right? We can become what we want to be. That's the story of the United States of America. We're the dreamers, the ones who always come together and overcome, right? That's what Hollywood's always painting the stories of, right? That's what our anthem is. That we need more. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So we're still talking about adding value to others. We have to add value to ourselves. So we're talking about different ways we can add value to ourselves. And as we add value to ourselves, we can add value to others, right? So the fourth topic that we're talking about is, how do you add value to others? Because you can't give to others what you don't first possess yourself, right? And so people with low self-esteem have difficulty in adding value to others, don't they? It's usually the people with the low self-esteem who become the bullies and become the very negative pick on people, because it makes them feel better if you're small, right? So so usually they believe they're never good enough and they're never going to be good enough, and they become overly protective of their heart and they don't let people in. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
So they go into a survival mode of thinking even. They almost think that everybody's out to get them. They get into this paranoia thinking. And one way to get through this is to surround yourself with others who are positive. And that's going to be fun at first, because if you're really negative, those positive people aren't going to want to hang around you. When you do something kind for someone else, though, you begin to feel better for yourself. So if you're really
before you go on, I have to say this because it just made me laugh when you said that. It's kind of like that girlfriend that you have, right? That every time you get with her, she's complaining about everything, and y'all go out with a group of friends, and y'all are trying to have a good time, and here's that one friend, woe is me, super negative, and brings the mood down, right? And so then when you're planning another one, you're like, yeah, we're not going to tell Mary about that. We're not going to bring Mary along because she's just going to bring us down. So it's kind of like that with that negativity.
Right. So what do you do in that case? So all the positive people don't want to hang out with me. Well, then start volunteering. Start spending some time out with some volunteer organizations. Feed the homeless. Do Salvation Army sorting, food banks, whatever you can. Rape crisis centers, hotlines for suicide lines. Put yourself in some courses. Find a coach. We can help you turn that around. And as you turn that around and you start to see, when you're serving other people, you become, more full of gratitude for all the things that you have and all the blessings that you have. In fact, that's what I would recommend. Starting a gratitude journal, and a minimum of 3 to 5 things every day written down. What are you grateful for? And at first it might be hard, But, for other people, they can go on for 25, things or more that they're grateful for a day. Then some of them are starting at one, if a great cup of coffee, wherever you're at, build on it. If you're that person who's full of life and full of gratitude and you're at 25 on your list, kudos to you. Stay positive, stay grateful, share with other people what you're grateful for, and maybe it'll rub off on them. But as you start to become more grateful and helping other people, your attitude is guaranteed to start lifting. And as you start to lift and you happen to talk to your friends and they go, wow, Mary, you sound really positive today. Things seem to be lifting for you. They'll start inviting you again, right? So that's how we turn it around, right? We have to start somewhere. So kindness is a great way to add value to others, and it's a great way to build your self-esteem. Kindness contributes to the sense of purpose as a whole to mankind, and it's a connection that we have with each other. And as we said, kindness boosts your self-worth, doesn't it? Right? Which is going to lift your positivity.
It does.
So acts of kindness can increase your own abilities and proficiencies. And in the same time, especially if you're sharing a skill that you have and you're teaching it to somebody else, they often say when you learn a new skill, turn it around in 24 hours and teach it to somebody else, because it sinks down into you and you absorb it much deeper. So it reinforces those skills within yourself. And by doing that, what are you doing? You're raising your self-esteem while you're helping other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you think of some acts of kindness, Mary Denise, that we might suggest people use?
Well, one of the famous ones that's been going around is buying a cup of coffee for a stranger.
Yeah.
Being in the drive-through line and just paying for the person's food behind you in the drive-through. That's that pay it forward type thing. Putting money.
What a blessing it is when you're up to pay for your bill and all of a sudden they go, you don't owe anything. What do you mean I don't owe anything? Oh, the person in front of you paid for it. What do you mean they paid for it? They don't know me. Why would they do that? It's just so rewarding to feel that, right?
It is. You can also give up your seat for someone that's older or is, has, they're on crutches or whatever. Just giving up a seat is a good thing. Opening the door for somebody, especially when their hands are full, just help them.
Yeah,
Open
that's
the door.
nice.
It's not going to hurt anything. And giving someone a compliment. And
That's
one of
big.
the biggest things that we don't do is we don't give people compliments. And when we do give a compliment or we receive a compliment, we don't know what to do with it. Right?
I went with a friend. I met a friend for lunch before COVID hit in. And we met over by the ocean. And we had dinner at this restaurant. And as we were leaving, she stopped at a table, people we didn't even know. And it was a family. And she said, I just want to tell you, you guys have the most beautiful blue eyes. I mean, look, it's in both of the parents and it runs through the kids and you're just beautiful. And she smiled really big and the whole family was like, wow. And we walked away and I said, Tanya, that was so sweet of you. Like, what? She goes, yep, I'm practicing giving a compliment to people, strangers that I don't know, every day. I have to compliment. I think she was striving for 3 people, and I thought that is the sweetest act of kindness. That really, really touched.
That is. Well, a good practice that people should get into the habit of doing is to pausing before they take an action or they engage in conversation and ask yourself, is what I'm going to do or what I'm getting ready to say, is it going to benefit me or someone else? If the answer is a resounding no, it's not going to benefit you, it's not going to benefit someone else, then don't do it. Don't say it.
You heard of the Rotary Club? The Rotary Club has the 4-rule test, and one of those is it going to benefit all those people involved in the transaction? So Sandra Fry has a note. Go ahead.
Active listening is a good and free way to give value. Ooh, that's a good one.
Active listening is a great one. So what is the difference? What is active listening? I bet a lot of people may have never heard that term. Of course, some have.
So I define active listening as really being in the conversation. Like, you don't have your phone, you're not sitting here texting, you're not, looking at the TV. You're like right there in the moment, hanging on to every word that they're saying and then repeating some of the things that they said. I understand that you're saying this.
Yeah.
Oh,
So when I was a supervisor early on in my career, I was not an active listener at all. I would have employees come in and sit with me in my office, and sure enough, the phone would ring, and I'd look over. Should I take it? Should I, pick it up? Or an email would pop in on my screen, and I would be distracted. And it really makes them feel not valued, not listened to. So then I learned, like, close my computer screen if I'm talking to somebody so I'm not distracted. Turn the voice volume down, or don't even look at the phone if it rings, right? Because if they're the most important person in front of you, focus on them. And then I learned, about the two parts of listening, right? There's empathetically listening, and then there's honestly expressing, and there's stages to each thing you do, and observing them and what their body language is. So maybe they're not saying it, but you can see that they're confused by their body language, or maybe you can see you offended them. And so it's listening. I think active listening involves listening to what they're not saying as much as to what they are saying.
Yeah.
I'm an outspoken person, and I'll just keep talking. And somebody who's not a big talker, I have to learn to quiet because they won't talk.
And that goes with what Sandra said, is that so many people, oops, where'd it go? Oh, where'd it go?
So many people just want to be heard. It's on the screen. Yeah.
Okay. Is it? Yeah, I can't see it. I couldn't see it.
I know. That's okay. That happened to me earlier. That's like, what did it say?
But, and active listening is super important, right? And, and as we were talking about, is it going to benefit me or is it going to benefit the other person, right? That part of active listening is what helps you determine if it's going to benefit somebody else. And so I was doing some research on adding value, because I'm actually putting a class together on value. And I came across some interesting questions. I'm just going to give you a couple of them, not going to give you a bunch. But the one that had me laughing, because I am so guilty of this sometimes, was, is buying McDonald's takeaway adding value to you and your family's health?
Well, that's a big no. Unless you get the salads, but who does that?
Or is it going to add more value to you by using that money to pay down debt or to put in a savings account?
And will you get more food if you go to the grocery store?
Right. And then people say, oh, it's too expensive to eat healthy. I can't afford to buy, all protein and keto and all that other stuff.
It is more expensive to buy better food. That's true.
It is. But if you budget right and you're not doing some of these extraneous things, then you'll have it, right? And then the other one, which touched my heart because I dealt with this when I worked, is gossiping about people or focusing on a minor negative thing adding value to the person you're talking to, or is focusing the discussion on all the amazing things we have in our lives that we are grateful for adding more value to you and the person you're talking to.
This concept is really good about taking the pause. Sometimes for a long time in my early 20s, I would just, talk out loud. I think out loud. I just say anything. But learning to pause and ask that question, is this going to add value to the conversation, or am I just spouting things off for the sake of spouting things off? It's huge. It's really huge.
It is. So as we come to a close, because we've got about 2 minutes left, we challenge you to, and this is something that Candace Mae and I also hold ourselves accountable to, and we do the same thing, and we check in on each other and make sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do. I have a few accountability partners that I do that with throughout the week, but we challenge you to value people. Value people.
You froze there.
Oh, did I freeze? Okay. You want to
think of ways to add value to people, right?
What are the other ones, Candace Mae?
Well, look for ways to add value to people. So think of the ways of adding them, but then pay attention to your surroundings and look for opportunities. You may, like Mary Denise said, somebody's got their arms full, hold the door open for them. It doesn't take a lot. Smile, like Sandra Fry said. Maybe some people just want to be heard. Everyone just wants to be listened to. If you see a homeless person and maybe you don't have money to give them, maybe you stop and say, hello, how are you? And you add value to them because you're listening to them. They're being seen and heard. And that is the biggest gift you can give somebody, right?
Absolutely. And you can also encourage others to add value to people.
Yeah.
That's an important one.
Well, that's what you're doing right now, isn't it?
That's what we're doing.
There you go. So what's the second thing we can challenge everybody with?
I think that it would be a good idea for everyone to write down 3 ways that you added value to yourself
Each day.
Every day. And write down 3 ways that you added value to someone else every day.
Yeah. Wow, that's a big challenge.
Yeah. And as you do that, I guarantee it, I promise you, and I don't make a lot of promises or guarantees for very many things, but this I do guarantee and promise. Your whole mind shift, you'll have a mind shift. You'll start to see yourself differently, and you'll start looking forward to doing more and giving more to people. And that's what I love about that.
I love that. I love that because I think it's important. Even you can add value to your kids. You're helping them with homework. You're cooking dinner. Okay, if that's all a given, what if you did it to somebody outside of your family? Yeah. That takes it a step further because we can all stay in our little routines and say, well, I did it this and that. But if you step outside of your family, immediate family, wow. Wow.
Yep, exactly. So
Thank you, Mary Denise.
You're welcome. So both of these exercises are going to bring you closer to adding value to yourself and others. And it's really important for you to remember that before you can add value to others, you must add value to yourself first. Like you must, without a doubt. So thank you for joining us today. We're so grateful that you took your time to listen to us and participate in conversation.
Yes.
Please let us know what your biggest aha moment was or takeaway from listening to today's topic. And as always, let us know if there's anything in particular that you want us to discuss or focus on, and we can add it to our list. What problem can we solve for you? Because this is not about Candace Mae and I. It is about adding value to you, our listeners, our viewers. So thank you so much. Be blessed.
Absolutely. Unshackle your voice. Be seen and heard with confidence. We believe in you. Thanks for being here. See you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.